I need to do what's best for me in this moment. And um, that felt like filling up my pockets. I think that all of those seasons have prepared me for motherhood because there's so much of it that you can't control. You don't ever want to feel like an inconvenience, and we shouldn't. I knew my body was going to change. I knew everything about me was going to be different. So this idea of holding on to who you used to be, you've evolved.
Welcome to Baby, Bump, and Business, the podcast for creative moms growing a baby and a brand at the same time. I'm your host, Bee Trofort-Wilson, photographer, educator, and first-time mom to be, sharing the real, unfiltered journey of pregnancy, entrepreneurship, and everything in between. Each week, I'll be joined by a fellow creative mom to talk about the beauty, the burnout, and the balance of it all. So let's get into it. Today's guest, we have Walnette Carrington. Walnette is a dynamic actress and first-time mama known for her powerful performances in BMF, Doom Patrol, and most recently, Medea's Destination Wedding. In 2025, she continues her rise with another Netflix feature and guest star appearance on Tyler Perry's Sisters. Off screen, Walnette pours love and intention into Sipping Success with Mama, a growing community empowering mothers to show up fully for themselves and their dreams. Rooted in authenticity, storytelling, and sisterhood, she's redefining what it means to thrive in motherhood and beyond. Let's welcome Walnette to the podcast.
Hey.
Walnette, what inspired you to get into the creative entrepreneurial space?
You know, when you are lost, you got to get found somehow. And it just so happened that I tried to do the traditional thing, go to college. And I always say I was enrolled at Georgia State, but I never actually attended Georgia State. Um, that is terrible, but it is my truth, okay? So yeah, I went to college and I was just kind of like, what am I doing here? Like, I don't want to do this. I didn't want to go to class. I didn't go to class. And my mom actually, this was at the time when like the castings would be on like the radio. You remember back then it was
Mm.
like, we're looking for extras for Tyler Perry's. I don't even remember the project. My mom was like, oh my God, you should do this. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Ended up going and I was like, wow, like this is a whole new world. And I met a young lady, I wish I remembered her name, but she did sound and she was like, hey, do you want to be an actress? And I was like, me? Sure, why not? She was doing sound, but knew they were casting. And she was like, you should audition. Like, sure. Audition. And I ended up booking it. And that was the first time that I cried tears of joy. And I was like, that's different, but I like it. So let's lean into that. Um, and yeah, I leaned all the way in. I was like, clearly college is not for me. And that's how we got here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, on this journey, you are married to another actor, Donnie. How did you guys come together?
So after I booked that film, I was like, okay, how do I lean in? How do I actually become a professional in this field? So I started taking classes. And only God would do this because I I was in Alpharetta. And if you know anything about Georgia, for the listeners out there, Alpharetta is on the north side. This class and my husband were on the south side, which is about a 50-minute drive, if not a little more. So I don't know how I skipped all the other schools in Atlanta that would have been maybe like 30 minutes away, and ended up on the south side, but I did. And that is where I met my husband. So we were taking acting classes together, and yeah,
And now here y'all are.
partner for life. Yep.
Awesome. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So your journey into motherhood, how was that? Was that planned? Did it just happen?
So I would say it was planned. We both knew like we wanted to be married. And this might be a little TMI, but it is what it is. On the day of my wedding, I actually had my cycle. So it was like, well, won't happen today. But sure enough, once I was off that thing, it happened. I
That's
mean, I could not make it up. He was just like, "You ready?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And here we are.
beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, so when you found out you were pregnant, you both are entrepreneurs. You both are creative entrepreneurs in the acting space. What was your thought process about what this 10-month period is going to look like during your pregnancy? Were you still doing castings? Were you still auditioning? What was that process for you?
So, again, God, it just so happened that we got married in 2022. Um, and we had just kind of shifted into like our own home and things the year prior. And that was a pretty like slow year for me anyway. I was like, you know what? I guess I'll just go back to corporate, right? Um, and I was looking for a job, ended up getting a job where they understood, that acting was my priority. And we're super flexible. And I was like, you know what, God, I'm going to stay planted in this space until you tell me to move and you tell me to pivot. So I ended up getting that job. Uh, yeah, literally a month before I got married because I was like, hey, I would love to work here. However, I need a day off. Okay. I need a day off, 11/11. So that's what, October. So October, I ended up getting the job, got married in November, got pregnant in November, and literally worked up until the last day right before I gave birth. So I was able to do that, um, which was nice, because it's consistent income. Still not necessarily doing what I love, but it was consistent income. And at the same time, we had an actor strike. So it just, like I said, God, divine timing, just surrendering has been the greatest gift because I was able to still earn an income and not necessarily have to worry so much about my career. Because I didn't have a choice. Um, so yeah, I worked up until that pregnancy and I was on maternity leave for about 3 months. Once I came back, I was working from home for another 3 months because my daughter did not want anything but this breast. Okay. She did not want a bottle at all. Um, so yeah, when I went back to work, I actually ended up booking Medea's destination wedding. That was my very first booking. She was only 6 months, I think, at that time. And yeah, after my third booking, I was like, okay, God, I don't have a choice. I don't have no more days in this corporate job. So I guess it's my time to up and pivot.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's go a little bit back to that acting strike. So when that actor strike happened, we know the world was going upside down, and especially for the creative space, a lot of us were in shambles about what are we going to do. So how were you able to mentally shift into that mindset of, I'm okay with going back to corporate and doing this and actually do something that's going to help my future? Because I know a lot of us um, struggle with that challenge of doing or pivoting or what that pivot looks like. So how are you mentally capable to do that?
I think for me, it was just a matter of like, I need to do what's best for me in this moment. And um, that felt like filling up my pockets. Okay. Honestly speaking, that was really what it was for me. It was just like, hey, you know, I I set goals for myself financially. And the minute that thing starts to get a little close to that number, I'm like, hold on. So, right, let's figure some things out. So, yeah, that was the priority for me in that season. N- Again, unbeknownst to the fact that I'd be pregnant at the same time, but
Beautiful. And what would you say to any actress or actor or mother out there that's going through a season like that where it's hard for them to face that reality? Oftentimes if we don't want to humble ourselves, like, you know what, it's okay to go back and do this or to make this sacrifice for my future. What would you say to them in that process?
I would say you gotta do what makes you happy. And that's a part of the journey. You have to trust your process and trust the season that you're in and know that like we only have to be humble before God. We don't have to be humble before anybody else. You know what I mean? So if if you feel that shift and that pull towards going back to a 9 to 5 or, whatever path you choose to go on, then do that and know that you're always at the right place at the right time.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. So, after you had your beautiful baby girl and you got your first booking, how did motherhood impact the way that you work or you create?
Um, Motherhood as it pertains to my career has given me a different level of resilience and surrender. When I tell you this baby did not, for my audition that I submitted for Medea, she's in it. She's cooing in it. Like I should probably post it one day because at one point it's just like, man. And I'm like, I I don't have a choice but to keep going. Okay. If not, we're just not gonna be able to submit this. So yeah, it's definitely given me a different level of resilience and just ultimate surrender. I mean, I it's been such a blessing because I've always gone through these seasons where I'm just like, God, you got it. But nothing quite like motherhood because or I think that all of those seasons have prepared me for motherhood because there's so much of it that you can't control. We can't control how our bodies physically change, how our brain changes, the chemistry in our body. Like we can't control any of it. You have this human being that's fully depending on you for everything. So when they say it's up and time to go, we gotta go, you know? Or going back to Medea and that first booking. So not only was she all up in the audition, but I had to bring her with me because she was only latching to my breast. She didn't want a bottle. So we were able to fly to the Bahamas, as a family, which was beautiful. But the whole time as I'm working, I'm like, okay, I know in a little bit Donnie's gonna text me like, hey, she's hungry. And I'm gonna have to say, hey, I need, you know, some time to go nurse my child. Um, so yeah, I would say just surrendering to what is and making sure that it's in alignment and what's best for me and my family.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. So, talking about that whole transition of bringing your daughter to work, I know like sometimes we struggle with, especially planning for the future of what that can look like. How was it understanding that this is a need and being okay with even setting those boundaries or even letting your job know, like, hey, I need to be able to do this to provide for my child at this time? Because I know oftentimes we feel as if, especially as mothers and new moms, that there's something that we shouldn't share with our job or things like that. So how did you find that confidence to be able to share that, but also learn that even your job will be understanding of that?
Mhm. Um, so with corporate, they like legally have to give you time to like pump and do those types of things. And again, they were very fortunately, I had women that were managers, so they understood like this is a very real thing where some babies are just like, child, I don't know what that bottle is. That's not what I want. So I was able to work home and that was nice. But that transition specifically for uh, film and TV, that was scary because, you don't ever want to feel like an inconvenience and we shouldn't. We shouldn't. We have to eradicate that stigma. But it very much so feels that way. Um, and just working specifically with Tyler where everything is just really fast paced, you're like, oh my God, is this a good time? But, again, you have to do what's best for that baby. So you really, in the moment, I think it becomes just secondhand nature for you to be like, hey, I got to do what I got to do, you know?
Right. Did you have any fears, especially like again talking about like the creative industry, having any fears of letting them know, like when you were auditioning, did you have any fears of letting them know that you are a first time mom, you have a newborn, or you're auditioning and I'm currently pregnant? Did you have any of those fears of revealing that while going through that process?
Um, no. I was way too happy to like genuinely. I remember Donnie and I had a couple of like commercial auditions that didn't call for her to be pregnant at all. And I was just like, by the way, here's my belly. Didn't book it, but it wasn't anything. I just felt like what was for me was going to be for me. So, you know.
Beautiful, beautiful. So how do you now that you're in this new space of motherhood, again, you both are creative entrepreneurs, which is kind of rare in our industry. And I know that there comes different challenges with that. But how do you guys now balance this creative business, being mother and father and creative entrepreneurs? How has that balance been?
It's been good. It's a lot of communication. A lot of communication. It's, hey, I'm considering this or I'm auditioning for this. What does your schedule look like? Um, is this something where, I'm fortunate enough to have a really strong village. I have my mom who works from home, so she, is able to watch my child if neither one of us are available. I have my sister as well, and it's just communicating. I would say that's been the biggest game changer for us for sure.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we should say that again. Communication, guys.
Hello.
Communication goes a long way.
Heavy on that. For
Now,
sure.
now, after having your beautiful princess, did you go through any postpartum? And if so, what did that look like for you?
No, I didn't. And I took a breath, and I want to touch on this. That's why I'm so excited to be here. I took a breath simply because for my little girl's about to be 2 years old. And for the longest time, it almost felt like I was a burden for not having experienced postpartum.
Mm.
It's almost like we find more comfort in the negative than we do the positive. And that is driving me absolutely crazy. So now after 2 years, I can confidently say, like, no, I didn't experience postpartum. I had a really beautiful and positive experience. And I just wish that more women would experience that and know that they're worthy of it. I think that's where it starts. Um, and I also want to say that I attribute that to my husband. He's an amazing partner. I attribute that to my village. Um, and of course, to God. But I also put in a lot of work on the front end. The minute I found out I was pregnant, and even before then, I had been journaling, like, I'm grateful for my healthy womb. I'm grateful for a beautiful experience. Um, but you do have to put in a lot more mental work than I think we talk about, right? Everybody says have a seat, or make sure that you're going on those walks, or you have your date smoothies, or your what tea is it again? I forgot the name of the tea. Your raspberry leaf, is it? Are you there yet?
No, I'm not there yet.
Okay, girl. But it's a thing. They tell you all of these like physical things, but no one really talks about the mental and the spiritual changes that your body's also going through and your mind is going through. So I wish that we would have more conversations around that, right? Just to prepare women a bit more, to try to reduce those chances, right? There are some things that are inevitable, but if you can control anything, start with your mind, I would say.
But I think that's very, very important because, like you said, like when I found out that I was pregnant, I'm telling people, no one said anything about how to protect my mind in this process.
Hmm.
Everything's about what are you physically doing? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? But no one's talking about the mental space that you're in or what are things that you can do to protect your mind through this changing process. And I think that that's something that, like you said, we don't touch up on it a lot. I don't hear a lot of people talking about, like, yeah, I started journaling and I started doing this. Luckily, I started therapy before I got pregnant, so that's been very, very helpful. But even like you said, we do need to do more in terms of talking about that mental space and what can we do to prepare and to kind of protect. Because, like you said, we can't really control what postpartum looks like for our bodies, but there are some things that we can control, which is putting in good practices for ourselves that we can still lead into even if we do have a negative postpartum experience, we can still have something that's been helping us stay grounded in this whole process. So I think that that's very, very beautiful. Now, going into building and running your business, has there been any guilt about now that you have to have this balance of saying yes and no to certain things? Has there been any guilt in that process?
No, not really. And I think it's because in my industry, you're working for a certain amount of time and then you kind of have this time off, or at least in this season of my industry, I should say, because that's not everyone's story. But for me, it's like I've worked For Medea, I was in the Bahamas for like 4 or 5 days, right? And she was with me. For my next Netflix feature that comes out, um, it filmed here in Georgia. So yes, I was gone throughout the day, but I was able to come back home. I knew she was safe. And by then it was a time where I felt like I had spent enough time with her. And for a little bit more context, I have only spent one night away from my child in these 2 years. So it's kind of like if I were to be guilty, it's like, girl, sweetie. And meanwhile, I have a whole bunch of other moms that are like, girl, you need a break. Even my own mom, she's like, please, just go somewhere. And I'm like, I mean, my husband and I have great communication. We're in a good place where I don't feel like my daughter is coming between us in any way, which I know is a thing, right? You go through like a roommate phase sometimes. So yeah, I don't feel guilty because I feel like I've been there every day, every night.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, with you being someone that is on the screen, you're not the person behind the scenes, you're in front of the screen. How did you manage the body changes that came with pregnancy and bouncing back? Did you feel any of that pressure?
Um, no, I gave myself a lot of grace. And again, that goes back to like how I went into it, right? I knew my body was going to change. I knew everything about me was going to be different. So this idea of holding on to who you used to be, you've evolved. You've evolved into like what I like to think is the highest form of love, right? Um, so I knew going into my pregnancy and throughout my pregnancy, like, girl, you just gotta let go. You gotta let go. Because if not, you're literally gonna drive yourself crazy. There's absolutely nothing that you can do about the fact that your belly has stretched out. Nothing, So why? I just don't think that's a pressure that we need to be putting on ourselves. Um, I will say, when the movie came out, I was like, oh my God, I was postpartum. Oh my gosh. But watching it, I was like, oh, okay. Worst case scenario, I could just say, hey, I was 6 months postpartum.
That's
So
beautiful. That's
yeah.
beautiful. So going for if you were to give any advice to a mother in the creative space, an actress who is planning on going into motherhood and has all the fears of balancing work or not being able to get jobs and all those different things. I know you've spoken a lot about giving yourself grace, doing the mental work. Is there any other advice that you would give them that you wish you knew?
That's a good question. I think that is the advice. Just remember to have grace. Remember that this is your first time, your partner's first time. If you're a first time mom, of course. But even the moms, as I think about future kids, okay, or kid, um, I think that for every birth, it's a new experience, right? I think it's a rebirth for us in a sense. That's how I like to look at it. So, give yourself grace because you've never experienced this before, whether it's your first child or you're going transitioning from one to two to three, whatever the case may be. Um, and again, heavy on the surrender. I think surrendering has really and truly saved me from the postpartum, from, just the negative projections that we are constantly fed. So I give it literally all to God to just say like, hey, have your way in this, and I'm trusting that I'm gonna have the experience I'm supposed to have, which is a good one.
Beautiful. Now, when we talk about surrender, I know that there are a lot of women that struggle with that idea, because oftentimes we think that surrendering looks like a certain thing. Surrendering is supposed to look this way of, well, this person said that they surrendered, but I don't know how to surrender. So how would you, for yourself and your journey, how would you explain surrendering to someone that may not understand what that actually means to actually go like give and let God?
Say that looks like releasing control, you know, and accepting what is, right? Um, that I think that's the biggest thing where it's like the control aspect is this should look like this versus this is actually what it is. If we focus on what is and not what we desire, not what someone else's experience was, but just focus on the moment that's right in front of you, that's surrendering. That's trusting that, hey, I don't see 10 steps ahead. I don't know what's going to happen when I get into that delivery room. I didn't know what was going to happen. But I was like, baby, I need you to come and I need you to come quick because you're hurting me. Okay. And she did. My baby girl, she listened. um, but yeah, just trusting what is right in front of you in that moment, I think is the best way to describe surrender. And that's just a true testament also to faith, right? Like knowing if, and this is something that I speak about with Sip and Success with Mama, like if God loves me the way that I love my child, I can't fail. I won't fail. You're not gonna let your child fail. You're not. So
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
that's my take on surrender.
That's beautiful. So, how did this motherhood journey birth Sipping Success with?
It birthed it because I remember being pregnant and going, on TikTok, doing my little scrolls and having to dig for good experiences, having to like literally go on a deeper search for the women that had a positive birth experience, for the women that had a positive postpartum experience. And that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to curate for myself. I'm a firm believer in the power of the tongue, right? And in consumption, which is what Sip and Success means, right? Like at face value, for me, Sip and Success is literally being so aware of what it is that you're consuming, digesting, ingesting, all the
Mm,
things, right? You're literally sipping things that make you feel successful in whatever that means to you, right? So if I'm sitting here and I'm scrolling and all I see are these horror stories, naturally at some point my mind is going to go to, dang, that could be me. Versus I'm seeing all these positive stories and it's like, oh, I could do this, you know? So it was that for me where I was just so um frustrated, honestly, with the lack of positivity that was being poured into moms. And it's like your truth is your truth, but I also want to remind you that you can change your truth at any time
mm.
and that you're
Ooh, that's
worthy
a
of,
word.
okay? That you're worthy of a positive experience, whether in motherhood or beyond that, right? You are who you say you are, and you have to be very intentional about what you're saying, just as much as you're intentional about what you're consuming. So
Right.
that's how we got
That's
here.
beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what they can expect from Sipping Success with my
With mama. Yeah. So we're actually gearing up for our third event of the year. So right now we're doing quarterly events that are just curated and rooted in, again, positivity, right? And more so in ourselves. Because I know that there are a lot of motherhood groups where it's like, you link up and you have a good time. And that's not necessarily what this is. This is kind of like you come in and we talk about how can we celebrate you, right? Let's remember to celebrate ourselves as moms wherever we are, right? Even in the chaos, we can still find moments to celebrate ourselves. Um, so I'm not entirely sure what I want that event to be just yet, but it's going to be a good one. It'll likely be in September, and yeah, we might have a couple of other things coming with
That's
Sip.
beautiful. That's beautiful. So, outside of that, and back to the acting, what are some things that you are working on?
Yes. So we have Ruth and Boaz, which is our Netflix feature. It's produced by Devon Franklin and Tyler Perry. That comes out, I believe, September 26th, I think, on Netflix. But that one's a really fun one. And what else? Sisters, I don't know when that one comes out, but it is later in the season, the current season that we're in now, which is great. Um, and yeah, I'm in the process of creating something on the creative side, but just totally different from anything that I've done. I'm excited about that. And yeah, more bookings and blessings to come.
Awesome. And where can listeners follow you and support you?
So my personal page is Walnette Marie, which is WALNETTE, Marie, MARIE. And then Sippin' Success with Mama is just Sippin' Success, and it's SIPPINSUCCESS. And that's on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, Walnut, thank you so much for your honesty. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful journey with us. I've learned so much in this. I'm so excited to continue to see your successes, Donnie's successes, your beautiful princess. But thank you again so much for being so open and sharing your truth with us.
Yes, thank you for having me. This is great. I feel like so much better now.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Baby Bump and Business. I hope today's conversation reminded you that you're not alone in this journey and that there's so much power in building something beautiful while becoming something new. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate, review, or share it with another mama or creative who needs this encouragement. Your support helps this community grow and lets more stories like ours be heard. To stay connected and get updates on new episodes and real talk from creative moms like you, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Baby Bump and Business. Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and keep giving yourself the grace that you deserve.